Afternoon, everyone. Oh, that was weak. Good afternoon, everyone. See, if you were in Catholic school, I would make you say, "Good afternoon, sister." I'm very happy to welcome you to Drexel University, our beautiful urban campus in a city of champions. Can't let that go. A World Heritage City, too, I might add. And we're very happy that you are a participant in our 5th assessment conference. It hardly seems possible that 5 years have gone by. I'm also the person who has sent you every annoying email that you have received. I take full responsibility for that. I'm proud of it. The more irritating I can be, the happier I am. So last night you got your first nightly newsletter. Tonight will be the second, and Thursday night will be the third. And I found out that that's just a nice way of communicating and summarizing the day's events and anticipating anything happening the next day as reminders. Today's presentation is brought to you by Exatrix. You see them on the screen at the center of the stage. It is a product of Concord USA, which is a conference sponsor. They are located at table 4 in the Pisby atrium, and you'll find more information on them on page 38 of your conference guide. But we certainly want you to patronize all of our sponsors. This afternoon, after the 2-session block is concluded, we will have an ice cream social in the Pisby atrium where registration is located. And we will have a special guest during that social. This person likes selfies, so make sure you have your phone to advance yourself of that or to take advantage of that opportunity. Those of you who signed up for the Castle event on Pedagogical Happy Hour, doesn't that sound nice to all of our ears, will proceed to the Castle event after the conclusion of the ice cream social, and I'll be happy to escort that group over to the Idea Center on 34th Street. It's only a block away. Our Phillies game is also happening tonight at Citizens Bank Park. Tickets and information are available in the lobby this afternoon. That was another situation where registration was required, although 1 or 2 seats may be opened at this point. Transportation is provided to and from the park, with returns to both Drexel and to the Sonesta Hotel. Your escort for this evening will be Joe Hawk of my office. The Ask Me ribbons are all over our badges, so if you need help at any time, one of the members of the planning committee, this is sort of the Ask Me badge. Stop and ask us whatever you need. Now, one thing that's always intrigued me is getting evaluations from people who are assessment professionals. This is an assessment conference, my friends. So when you attend a session, please take the time to evaluate the session so we can communicate that feedback to the speaker. In years past, we have not gotten as many as we wanted. I won't air all our dirty laundry in public, but as assessment professionals, we would be remiss if we not provide the feedback to the speaker based on the outcomes indicated in the guidebook and in their session. As I said a moment ago, we encourage you to visit all of our sponsors, tables 1 through 8. CAE, the makers of CLA Plus and Watermark, they were an addendum that was inserted into your conference guidebook because they were late to the table. They're located at tables 7 and 8. Each of those will have a half-hour presentation tomorrow, and I'll put that in the nightly newsletter tonight. CLA at 2 o'clock and Watermark at 3:45. So now before we start, I'm going to ask a favor. Can everybody just sort of stand up? Okay. You did that so well for highly educated people. Can you take 1 step backward as far as you can toward your seat? Now can you move 1 step to the right? Can you move 1 step left? And please be seated. Now, you probably want to know, has he completely lost it? Or why did he do that? Well, I did that because my boss, whom you will meet in a few seconds, Brian Blake, said that if I moved my audience with my introduction of him, I would receive that long-promised bonus. And you are all my witnesses. I have moved you thusly. You know, I did ask Brian for some advice about how to introduce him, and his response was swift and direct. He advised, whatever you do, Steve, don't try to be too charming, too witty, or too intellectual. In other words, just be yourself. I accept that advice from him because, as Oscar Wilde once said, the best way to appreciate your job is to imagine yourself without one. So with that in mind, I'll do the pro forma thing about Brian Blake, and then I will give you sort of a heartfelt sentiment of Brian Blake, the man, which I think in the end is worth a lot more. M. Brian Blake is an American computer scientist and software engineer and the executive vice president and Nina Henderson provost at Drexel University. He was previously dean of the graduate school and vice provost for academic affairs at the University of Miami, and associate dean for research and professor at the College of Engineering at the University of Notre Dame, and department chair and professor of computer science at Georgetown University. As you see, compelling credentials. And to think that he did all this by 13, amazing. During his career, Brian has worked at the department, college, and provost level with responsibilities including research, instruction, and faculty affairs. As the dean of Miami's graduate school, he oversaw more than 160 graduate programs in 12 schools and colleges, including the Miller School of Medicine, which serves more than 5,700 students and an overall tuition-based budget of approximately $73 million. Under his leadership, Miami established the first-of-their-kind interdisciplinary graduate program across its 3 campuses and launched a graduate initiative in China, Italy, Jamaica, and Spain. He led development of the Distinction and Diversity Initiative for Graduate Education and Research, with goals including enhanced research outcome for students and junior faculty, elevated visibility for graduate education, and most importantly, leveraging the diversity of the university's program and community. Brian previously was Associate Dean for Research and Graduate Studies at the University of Notre Dame, overseeing programs in the College of Engineering that grew enrollment by more than 30% and doubled research awards and expenditures during his tenure. Before that, he served as Department Chair and Graduate Studies Director for Computer Science at Georgetown. He has held tenured faculty appointment and directed an active research lab in computer science at each institution, and his work focused on adaptive workflow for web-based activities and application. Before beginning his academic career, he was a software engineer and architect for Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, and the MITRE Corporation. In addition to his bachelor's degree from Georgia Tech, Brian holds a master's degree from Mercer University and earned his PhD from George Mason University, Shame he can't hold a job. Now, Brian is married to his better half, Bridget Blake, who in her own right is a mechanical engineering graduate from Georgia Tech and who has an MBA from the Johns Hopkins University. And most importantly, he is the father of 2 sons. That's the official Brian. You know, when you go to these things, you always get the credentials ad nauseum. We know he's a smart guy. He wouldn't have the position if he weren't. And he's a prolific researcher and publisher. But that aside, I think it's more important to me that you know Brian the man. The Brian I know impressed me from the very beginning 3 years ago when he first came to Drexel. He impressed me as a caring and competent man who understands sacrifice and values hard work and consistent effort above all. He's an excellent communicator who is articulate and can fashion his thoughts quickly and effectively. He always comports himself in an appropriate and professional manner. He is well-organized, well-intentioned, and well-regarded by all. And he has an abiding respect for the worth and dignity of every person, the popular and the unpopular, the athlete and the scholar, the uniquely gifted and the merely ordinary. More than most, Brian has a very well-developed sense of balance in his life and can easily separate competing priorities. That is especially true when it comes to his family, where he openly displays a genuineness and affection for those whom he quite rightly holds most dear. He appreciates and values the aspirations and anxieties of people, and his principles for day-to-day living are well-grounded, applied evenly, and without fanfare. Unlike many people today, Brian values the link between principle and action. In fact, everything in which he is involved is always brought to a quality conclusion, and as you will see, he does a great deal indeed. Brian is genuine and real, purposeful and resourceful. For Brian, life is not an adult version of Monopoly, traveling aimlessly in a square, acquiring things. For Brian, life means, and his career means, a chance to make a difference, an opportunity to lend his gifts to eradicate problems and find solutions, and to know in the end that it mattered that he was there, eager and willing to be a major player. Given the opportunity, you also will find profit and pleasure in his association. I know of no other higher compliment to offer. Good things are always expected of Brian Blake, and he never disappoints. And now that I've said all these nice things about you that you wanted me to, Brian, and now that I so moved the audience, I'm waiting for the bonus you promised me before the sugar police arrive to arrest me. So without further ado, Brian Blake.
Thank you, Steve. Steve takes every opportunity to roast me, so I just want to say good afternoon and welcome. It's my pleasure to open the 5th Annual Assessment Conference. I do want to thank Steve for his work with the other organizers for the conference, because it's really becoming a venue that's getting international reputation, as well as bringing in some of the top scholars in this area. I believe you all are going to have a rewarding experience today and throughout the week. And really, I'm just so pleased. I don't know if Cynthia is here, but this morning we had a roundtable with the historically black colleges and universities. Dr. Cynthia Warwick, is she here? She's not here. Oh, yeah. So Cynthia is president of Stillman College. I did want to thank her because she hosted us in Alabama this summer and got a chance to see Stillman, and then we've kind of worked together on a couple of consortiums with regards to cooperative education. I'm from Savannah, Georgia, so it's really nice getting to Alabama because I like fried okra, I like bread pudding, so definitely getting those opportunities. So I also want to thank our plenary speaker, Todd Krajicek. We actually met my first year here, I think, when he was a speaker once before. So you may check his biography. I think it says something that's quite incredible, that you've given keynotes in 46 states at 300 campuses. Yeah, so that's incredible, and we really appreciate you taking time to come back and actually give us your words. So now looking ahead, we are so fortunate to be able to build on the success of our previous conferences. All told, gathering together with us today, more than 1,800 higher education faculty over the period of all the conferences throughout the Mid-Atlantic region and across the nation, with 28 states represented and from abroad. We have conference attendees travel here from more than 15 countries. Now we have a new opportunity collectively, I think, to restate our commitment to academic quality and to rally around the idea that quality students' academic experience must be the driver behind all our assessment activities. I could not be more pleased that we're able to host this at Drexel. So Drexel is one of the largest private institutions in the nation, with over 25 or about 25,000 students physically present or virtually online. We also have a foundation in cooperative education across all of our 14 schools and colleges. So we certainly, I certainly feel like we have an environment that's going to make for fruitful discussions over the next couple of days. Here at Drexel, I think we're specifically challenged in balancing assessment that faculty do, the self-assessment, as well as the teaching assessment that comes from students. So I'm very delighted that several of our faculty members actually presented papers in this area. I got a chance to look through the program. What's interesting to me as I went through the program earlier today was that the authors had such a broad interest in the areas of assessment. And I think some of the titles were actually quite innovative and humorous, actually. So I picked out a couple. The first one that I saw that I thought was really interesting was The American Idol of Assessment, External Program Reviewer. It was by Ann Wilcom at Drexel and Bobby Joe Grillo at Plenary at Immaculata University. So when I saw that title, it made me think about Steve, because he's American, he's been an external reviewer, and he's certainly an idol. Well, maybe 2 out of 3 is not bad. So the next one was Don't Buy Wholesale, a Better Value in Learning Outcomes Assessments. And that was from Bonfield and Lacavora from Rowan University. And my favorite, and this was really interesting, Don't Assess in a Vacuum, Team Up to Clean Up Assessment. And thanks, Ellen Derwin from Bradman University. So those I thought that was interesting going through and looking at the titles. So we've named this conference Leading a Collaborative Revolution for Change. But another way to look at our charge for these days is to acknowledge the fact that higher education is facing a revolution. Every major industry is being disrupted at this point, and I think higher education is a part of that. I'll tell you firsthand, as being an administrative leader, it's a tough time to be a provost or a president. Things are changing so fast. Our obligations are rising in an exponential rate. It's becoming clear that students are looking beyond price and prestige, deciding whether any number of different educational experiences are right for them. It may be a traditional college experience that many seek, but others are seeking competency-based, partially residential, and other programs that we haven't even conceived yet that might meet their needs. We know this much for sure. The expectations placed on higher education to foster and document students active in deep learning have never been higher. It is time to think of accessibility as the norm. Accessibility drives innovation in technology and education, and universal design for learning is becoming mainstream in K through 12 and in higher education. And courses of study have to anticipate the need to give all individuals equal opportunities to learn. A single one-size-fits-all solution is no longer effective for the students, our millennials that we're teaching today. We have to create flexible, adaptable approaches that can be customized and adjusted for students we need to meet our students where they are. There's an understandable push toward inclusive teaching for all students, and the process and roles are evolving rapidly. So, what you're doing today might have to be entitled differently tomorrow, depending on what your students' needs are. We need collaborative teams with skills in creation, so we can't, as I said, we can't build these things in a vacuum. We actually have to team up and look at the curation of digital learning objects, data source identification, data management and analysis, project management and evaluation. And everything we do is really under a microscope. So we certainly have to be concerned about accreditation and our ability to kind of meet the objectives that we set for our students. Accountability is an ongoing challenge because we live in this increased, like I said, in this increased time for regulatory compliance. And that's really squarely facing higher education more now than ever before. And while the US higher education system is the world's most complex, it's imperfectly struggling with accountability issues today. Access to post-secondary education has increased in the United States despite the rising costs of degree attainment. Yet America tends to still lag behind our countries in ensuring the public of what it really means to have a public school or higher education degrees. If our students are to be equipped with the skills to succeed, we must focus on their active learning, understanding, and our ability to assess how well they are taught. Learners are consistently variable, and we cannot predict the jobs of the future. For those reasons, more and more we'll be moving away from the traditional definition of literacy and moving to an area where we're actually instilling broader skills and approaches to learning. So with all that said, my challenge to you is twofold. Please enjoy the 3 days of thought-provoking speakers and workshops and invaluable networking on Drexel's beautiful campus. I think we dodged a bullet on the hurricane. And remember, we're only minutes away from the heart of the historic Philadelphia, really the birthplace of America. So I suspect we will have to see good chemistry and ideas over the next couple of days. Go out to your sessions. And I just want to thank all of you for attending and just wish you the very best conference. So thanks so much.